This video brought to you by Terrainify. Spoiler alert.
I love terrain. In fact, I would argue that I love terrain more than I love miniatures. I've always been that way, wanting to play on immersive tables more than I cared about whether the models were beautifully painted. I'm Matthew from MiniWarGaming.com, and if you know me, it's probably not really a surprise, because I've always emphasized that over the years, building tables that are as immersive as possible. When I first started in this hobby, as an adult, I got into Lord of the Rings. I painted my first few models, but that's not what excited me. What excited me was creating terrain of Khazad-dûm, or some forests even, or just a simple castle wall that you could charge and defend against the Uruk-hai. That's always been the way for me. I still remember visiting Warhammer World for the first time and going through their exhibition and seeing all the beautiful exhibits showcasing their awesome models. But what I was drawn to was all the terrain. I even talked to the person who created those exhibits, or ran the team who created them, and he said that they were told that the terrain was a backdrop for the miniatures. I get that for a company like Games Workshop that sells models, but for me, the models were there to accent the beautiful terrain. That is the hobby for me. It's always been a challenge though, balancing between really good looking tables, modularity, storage, price. All of these things have been a difficult journey for me as we have run MiniWarGaming and tried to create the best battle reports that we could. We started off almost 16 years ago by building 6 foot by 4 foot tables with plywood and sand and flock, and those were good. They were nice for their texture, the way the dice sounds when they hit them, and they were also very hard to store. In fact, you didn't really store them, you just left them on the table and you played on the same one every single time. And that kind of got boring. I saw other tables that people would make with hills built in and canals and rises and everything, but those were incredibly expensive or difficult to make. And then storage was even more of an issue. Years later, we had the entrance of the gaming mat, the neoprene gaming mat, same as mouse pad material. These things balanced a lot of the problems that I had. They allowed you to have a gorgeous gaming table, but it didn't cost a lot, and you could store them rather easily. And I thought this was just the bee's knees. It was the best thing ever. Except after a while, I found myself longing for the three-dimensional aspect of a good homemade gaming table. They just didn't do that. You could try, you put terrain on, and then you added some dirt around them, or rocks, or flock, just to help to blend in the three-dimensional terrain with a two-dimensional table. It just wasn't quite doing it for me. And so I called up Adam from Greenleaf Terrain, who's been making terrain for us for over a decade at least. At least I think that's how long it's been. And I commissioned him to start making more tables for us. In this case, we're doing these 2 foot by 4 foot tables. So they're somewhat modular and allow us to do some different things, but still allow us to have all that three-dimensional aspect to it. Adam is great at making these, but they're not cheap. They're quite expensive. They look gorgeous, of course, but they are thousands of dollars to make. And then there is the storage. The storage rooms for these are entire rooms, because each one obviously takes up a lot of space, and we want to have a lot of variety for these. And this is only some of them. We have more being made and more of the room being taken up in order to be able to have access to these gorgeous tables.
Pretty heavy, pretty ponderous. It takes a little bit of time to set them up. You gotta be careful with them, but the table you get out of them when you have them all set up is exquisite. They're big, they're bulky, but you can have a lot of fun with them. You got a lot more creative freedom with these boards.
If you don't store them properly, they take damage. They're expensive, big, bulky, hard to store, and there's easier options out there. That's for sure.
But I thought, you know what? That's what we gotta do. We gotta spend lots of money so we can have some of the best tables possible. But that's still not really good for the average person at home. You're gonna be just using gaming mats, I guess, because that's a nice cross between affordability and how good they look and how well they store. Well, a few months ago, I was contacted by a company, Terrainify. You may have heard of them. They've actually had terrain in our battle reports for many years.
I know Terrainify's got some great options for terrain. We've had some for years, probably about 10 years now. They've been doing this for a long time. Got some right here, 3D printed hills, effectively with textures to them and raises and elevations. Then you just flock it, dry brush it. This stuff's great. Loved it. Always used it. Still use it to this day, and it's pretty easy for all of us to get to them to the studios because we do use them that much.
They're all 3D printed and they'll paint them for you, or you can print them yourself if you want to buy their STLs. And they just have wonderful cliffs and details. Their paint schemes are awesome. I just loved their stuff. So when they contacted me back in October asking me to create a video, which they have sponsored, yes, this is a sponsored video, we've already said that I think, I wanted to take a look at the product that they were about to show off. In fact, a Kickstarter just started for it right now. And this was for a modular tile set that would allow you to 3D print a gaming table that would find a balance between the super expensive tables that you build yourself but look awesome and, you know, just having a gaming mat, which looks fine, but is flat and kind of boring after a while.
And here we have Terrainify's first full table terrain setup with 3D printed tiles. It's called the Rugged Hills. When I look at it, I immediately think of like sliding block puzzle in all the different kind of builds it can have. You can literally take pieces out, rearrange where some of the hills are. You could easily take out the middle. You could separate this hill, and you could put other elements here in the middle. So you could take this hill and you could throw it in the corner and break it up around the corner of the perimeter, and all of a sudden you're fighting in like a valley. You could have many different builds with this table, as it is many different pieces. This here is a 6 foot by 4 foot build with the tiles.
They sent me the STLs so that I could create this video and show them off and also use them in battle reports, and we started to print them. Well, first off, they printed super easy. They go on FDM printers with no supports required, and they just printed up. I believe there wasn't even a single failure through the entire process. So we just printed and printed and printed a 6 foot by 4 foot table of these modular tiles. Now I say modular, I mean modular, that you can decide how it is that you'd like the table to be. Do you want more hills, less hills, depends on the game that you're playing, of course, that you'll make those decisions. In fact, in this Kickstarter, there are 54 modular tiles that you can mix and match to build the table however you want. Are you playing old world? Well, then you're going to want to use more of the flat tiles with only a few of the hills so that you have lots of places to move your movement trays. If you're playing 40K or Age of Sigmar, well, then you have more freedom to express how you want the table to look in that three-dimensional aspect. They sit models just fine. You know, some of the bigger models might have a hard time teetering on the top of the cliffs and everything, but you know, it's the price for being an enormous monster. For the most part, they play wonderfully with the models from these different games. And if you're playing like small scale games like Necromunda or Kill Team, then you could really go and make it all hilly so that you actually have that perfect line of sight blocking terrain. They paint up super easy as well. Now, I say that having watched Jeremy paint them up, but he will even tell you that they painted up really easily. You just started off with a base coat, primed them, and then went over them. In this case, the Rugged Hills, we went for a kind of a dry look. And so we just painted them up gray for the rocks and then added brown for the dirt and then washed them. And then after that, just started dry brushing. Just dry brushed and dry brushed and dry brushed just to bring everything up. There's these awesome looking ruins. There's special tiles. And then we've just finished them off with some flock and static grass with a bit of a varnish sealer so that they don't get all chipped up. And that was it. I think he was able to paint the whole table, if you put all of the time he put together into it, in like 2 or 3 days, which is pretty darn fast. So now you have this wonderful gap between super expensive tables and two-dimensional tables. And in fact, the cost of us printing this all up, if you look at the cost of the PLA, the plastic that you use, is about the cost of 2 gaming mats to get one of these tables. So that is a heck of a lot cheaper than the thousands and thousands of dollars that I've paid Adam. Don't worry, Adam, I still got lots of work for you, because until Terrainify comes out with pretty much every single type of terrain that I want, like urban 40K stuff and more desert stuff, and I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. Until they come out with all those sets, which is obviously going to take a while, we're still going to be building tables as well, because, well, I gotta have lots of different variety for our battle reports. Now, the majority of you watching don't have access to 3D printers, and that's normal. Even though there's a rise in 3D printers in our community, there's still the vast majority of people that don't have access to them. Not a problem. Terrainify offers their services of printing, and if you want them to, painting as well. They have a lot of different styles that you can choose between, just like all their other terrain. So whether you want a wintry theme or a desert theme or some sort of foresty theme or somewhere in between, they have all of those, and they do a great job with them. They hand paint every single one, they do a great job. Or you can just have them 3D print them for you, and you can paint them yourself and save that money. and put the time in yourself to finish it all off. Now, whether they paint them for you or you just have them printed, it will cost more than if you print them yourself. But based on what I've seen from Terrainify, you'll be very pleased with the results. And then there's all sorts of scatter terrain that you can add to it and really make your table stand out. Storage, a lot easier than these huge tables. Because they are just 8x8 tiles, you're able to pack them away in a box and store them on a shelf, and that's it. It's really that straightforward. If this all sounds interesting to you and you want to grab the STLs, they are running a Kickstarter right now. If you go on the link below or go to miniwargaming.com/tiles, that will take you to their Kickstarter. If you're interested in having them print and or paint them for you, then you'll have to head over to their website. I'll put links in the description below. Either way, you can look forward to seeing more of these tiles in many of our battle reports in the future, because I think they look great and they really do address the need that I was already spending a lot of money to address, and they do it for way cheaper and still look awesome. So thank you very much to Terrainify for sending us the STLs to these tiles so we could print them and show them off. And also thank you for them for sponsoring this video and the upcoming battle reports that we are going to show this off as well. So if you want to check it out, go to their Kickstarter, go to miniwargaming.com/tiles. This is Matthew from MiniWarGaming. Happy wargaming. A little time warp for you guys. Just this is a couple weeks later after I filmed that, because we're just getting ready for it to go out for the Kickstarter. So got a few bonus clips for you, because I had asked the fine folks over at Terrainify to send me some, behind the scenes pictures and videos of, just so I could kind of splice it into the video. And we used some of that, as you saw, but you didn't see everything. So I just want to kind of show you a bit more. So this is going to be more like uncut. We're just going to kind of dump it in here. And that way you can kind of get the personality of those behind the scene as well. So for your enjoyment, here's Terrainify Uncut.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind. That's all I got.
That's all I got. Great job, Heathcliff.
You're the best. You're the best.
John, I think you got something on the middle of the screen there, on the top left of that. Is it on your screen? I think you got a smudge on your screen. Right?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, right there. Yeah, can you rub it? Oh, holy crap, it's a mini. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. He wants the scritches. You want the scritches. Oh, please.
There's a gap on the table where it goes.
You just fill that gap in your heart with this tile. I mean, on your table with this tile. Wait, I want to see your hands real quick. It's proof that John is actually works at the company and does stuff. So he's been busy today.
Get my hands dirty.